Kahani 10. Stars and Static. My secret rooftop getaway now comes with a side of seeing reality's hidden patterns. After Sigma 6, those bloody travellers and their mind-melting hum, I thought I'd found some peace at the arcade with Mrs. Higgins of all people. PvP thrashing, neon blue skin, jalebis, the lot. But back in my flat it all crept back. That faint resonance in my head like a song I couldn't unhear. A persistent crystalline hum that had been there since that dimensional gateway had almost torn reality apart. Barry's incessant air quality alerts didn't help, nor did Gizmo's latest trick of zapping my last clean mug into oblivion. I needed out, somewhere quiet, somewhere mine. The last straw came when my comm unit buzzed for the 13th time that day. Dispatch, obviously. Another urgent situation that only I could handle, no doubt. Something slimy or sparkly or reality-bending. I let it buzz until it stopped, a tiny act of rebellion that felt surprisingly good. Whatever crisis had popped up could wait one bloody night. The universe wouldn't implode if Maya Holloway took a few hours off. I stood in the middle of my small flat, suddenly aware of the walls pressing in. The place was a reflection of my scattered mind. Half unpacked equipment from the last job, 3 mugs with varying levels of forgotten tea, Gizmo's spare parts scattered across the counter. The air recyclers hummed their endless cycle, but it felt stale, confined. I needed space. Real space, not this artificial box. So I grabbed my thermos of masala chai, thanks to Ravi, my elder brother, for that recipe, and my beat-up holo projector, the one that's been flickering since I dropped it during that slime mold incident. I hesitated, then reached under my bed and pulled out the Muon-Tech sensor I'd acquired during the Sigma 6 evacuation. The PDSA-7 was technically ICS property, or would be if it had ever been officially logged. But the engineering team had left in such a hurry, and it seemed a shame to let such beautiful tech go to waste. Besides, my standard issue scanner couldn't detect half the things I needed to see these days. Snuck through the maintenance corridors, past Barry's sensors, to the rooftop deck. Restricted, of course, but I'd hacked the hatch before. Call it my little rebellion. The deck was a mess. Rusted conduits, flickering panels, the kind of place Barry'd fine you for breathing in. But through the transparent dome, the Boreas Nebula was starting to glow, all blues and purples swirling like a cosmic painting. I spread out a space blanket, poured some chai and settled in. Just me and the stars. The rooftop had been my secret sanctuary since week 3 of living in orbital Block K. I discovered it during a particularly frustrating night when the environmental controls in my flat malfunctioned, leaving everything smelling vaguely of burnt plastic. Maintenance claimed it would be fixed within the standard response window. Bureaucratic speak for sometime this century. So I'd explored, finding myself in the forgotten maintenance corridors that honeycombed the station. The access hatch was technically restricted, but someone had helpfully left the security protocols from older days installed. Child's play to bypass with the right multi-tool and an engineer's daughter's knowledge of outdated systems. Dad would be proud, I thought with a smile. He'd spent countless weekends teaching me to dismantle and rebuild everything from hoverbike engines to security panels, much to Mum's dismay. Engineering isn't just about building things that work, he'd told me once, his hands guiding mine as we bypassed a faulty door lock at home. It's about understanding how things fail and finding the workaround. He'd winked at me then, our shared secret. Official solutions are for people with no imagination. I've been coming up here ever since, whenever the walls felt too close or the job got too weird. No one ever came here. The official observation deck was 10 levels down, all sleek and polished, with its tourist-friendly star charts and commemorative photo opportunities. This place was real, unfiltered. When you looked out from here, you weren't seeing the carefully maintained illusion of space. You were seeing space itself, vast and indifferent and beautiful. I took a deep breath, feeling the tension in my shoulders begin to unwind. The air up here was different, slightly cooler with a metallic tang that reminded me of thunderstorms back on Earth. The ambient hum was softer too, just the essential systems needed to maintain the dome's integrity. Or so I thought I was alone. A soft whir broke the silence, and there was Gizmo, tail swishing, his optical sensors glinting like he'd planned this all along. "Sneaky little menace," I muttered, but I couldn't help smiling. Couldn't stay put, eh? I looked at the house cat-sized robot, then back at the narrow maintenance shaft I'd barely squeezed through myself. How'd you even get up here? There are vents I don't know about, aren't there? You've been exploring. He curled up beside me, purring, a low mechanical hum that somehow always managed to calm me down. The electronic feline had become a constant in my chaotic life, a bizarre anchor in the storm of weirdness that was my job. "You know," I said, scratching his metal ears, "I got you at that dodgy market on Deck 7 back when I first moved here. Thought you were scrap, all busted wires and no operating manual. But then you purred, and I was done for." I chuckled at the memory. Barry fined me for unauthorized purring that first week. Tried passing you off as a therapy bot to get around regulation. Didn't work, but you stuck around anyway. Gizmo's laser pointer flickered, chasing a speck of dust across the blanket. I took a long sip of my chai, letting the spicy warmth spread through me, grounding me. The nebula's colours deepened outside the dome, casting everything in a soft, ethereal light. I let my thoughts drift, the quiet humming of the station's life support systems fading into the background. "Sigma 6 messed me up, mate," I said quietly, not sure if I was talking to Gizmo or myself. That hum, it's still there, faint, like it's waiting. Makes me wonder if I'm cut out for this. Chasing anomalies, dodging exploding fungi, dealing with reality-bending weirdos. For what? I leaned back on my elbows, staring at the stars through the dome. The vastness of space usually made me feel small in a comforting way, but tonight it just amplified the questions ricocheting around my mind. Priya's out there walking runways in Paris. Leela's saving lives in her fancy hospital. They've got it sorted. Me? I'm wrestling with sentient nanites and losing PvP matches to a septuagenarian with a gaming habit. Am I even doing this right? Gizmo's purr didn't waver, steady as ever. "You don't care, do you? Long as I keep your circuits charged and your laser pointer functioning, you're happy. Simple needs." A flicker caught my eye. Bioluminescent drifty things, like the ones from that hydroponics bay job months ago. Tiny glowing orbs floating just beyond the dome, the light pulsing in time with the nebula's swirls. I didn't even need my scanner to recognize the pattern of their movements. Since Sigma 6, I'd started seeing rhythms everywhere. In Barry's system cycles, in the station's ambient hum, in the way Gizmo's tail swished when he was plotting mischief. It was like someone had adjusted the contrast on reality, making the underlying structures more visible. Out of habit, I pulled out the Muon-Tech sensor anyway, letting it confirm what I already somehow knew. The device pinged softly. Non-hostile biosignatures, low-level sentience. The readings matched my intuition, which was both reassuring and unsettling. How had I known? "Not here to cause trouble, are you?" I said, half to Gizmo, half to them. "Just drifting. No agenda, no forms to fill out, no bureaucratic nonsense. Lucky bastards." I watched them for a while, these peaceful little entities that seemed content to simply exist in the void. So different from the horrors I usually encountered. The aggressive fungi, the reality-bending anomalies, the things that shouldn't exist but somehow did anyway. These drifty things weren't trying to assimilate or consume or corrupt. They were just being. What would that be like? Just drifting through life without the constant weight of responsibility, without the pressure to be something specific, something useful, without the weight of expectations, without dispatches' constant demands. I tried to imagine a life where I wasn't always fighting something. Anomalies, regulations, expectations. A life of simply being. It felt foreign, almost impossible. My scanner beeped again, analysing the creature's bioluminescent patterns. There was a rhythm to their pulsing, a mathematical sequence that wasn't quite random. I found myself breathing in time with it, my heart rate slowing to match their gentle cadence. Almost without thinking, my fingers found the dials on my holo projector. I adjusted the frequency, tweaking minute settings that I somehow knew would synchronize with the drifty things. My hands moved of their own accord, finding the pattern, matching it. The crystalline hum in my head, my souvenir from the travelers, seemed to resonate with the adjustments. I tweaked the projector until the drifty things started to dance, their glow weaving patterns that felt almost deliberate, like they were answering the nebula's call. Or maybe they were singing to it in their silent, luminescent way. "Mum'd call you cosmic blessings," I said, a memory sparking unexpectedly. "Used to sing me this lullaby when I was a kid. Soft, lilting, all about stars and dreams guiding you home. Never needed words, just her voice. I didn't sing it, wouldn't dare, even alone up here. But the memory was enough, wrapping around me like the chai's warmth, comforting in its familiarity." The drifty things pulsed brighter, as if listening, and I felt lighter somehow. The incessant hum from Cygna 6 seemed to recede, if only for a moment. Or maybe not recede exactly, but harmonize? As if finding its place in a larger symphony. I found my fingers absently fiddling with the Muon-Tech sensor, adjusting settings that didn't need adjusting. I've been doing that a lot lately, tinkering with tech, scanning for patterns even when off duty. Chen would probably call it a nervous habit, but it felt more like a compulsion. A need to keep searching, keep finding the hidden rhythms in everything around me. Since the travelers, I couldn't seem to stop. Every device needed tweaking, every anomaly needed analyzing, like an itch I couldn't quite reach. "You know, Gizmo," I said, setting the sensor down deliberately, forcing my hands to be still. "Maybe I'm not Priya or Leela, and that's all right. Maybe my job isn't glamorous or world-saving, but I keep this madness contained. Stop the weird from getting weirder. Keep people safe from things they don't even know exist. That's worth something, isn't it?" Gizmo nudged my hand with his head, his heating element toasty against my fingers. "Yeah, you get it." A maintenance drone buzzed overhead. One of Barry's, no doubt, on patrol for unauthorized access and regulation violations. I flicked my multi-tool, sending a tiny jolt that shorted its sensor with a small spark. "Not tonight, you git," I muttered, grinning as it buzzed away confused. "Tonight's just for me." I leaned back on my elbows, sipping my chai and watching the stars. Funny how perspective changes everything. From my flat, the station felt like a prison sometimes. From here, I could see it for what it was, a fragile bubble of life in the endless void, a testament to human stubbornness and ingenuity. We didn't belong out here, not really, but we insisted on carving out these little pockets of existence anyway, rather like my job when I thought about it. Carving out pockets of normality in a universe that constantly threw weirdness our way. Keeping the boundaries in place, making sure the rules of reality stayed somewhat consistent, at least in our little corner of things. My hand automatically touched the scar on my forearm, a souvenir from the Xanadu Prime glitter incident. The doctor said the sparkle effect would fade within a month, but 3 months on and I could still see it catching the light sometimes. Battle scars, Chen called them. Proof we were doing something that mattered. Mrs. Higgins' face popped into my mind, her cackling over my blue skin at the spa, her Admiral Astra swagger in the arcade. "Mad old bat's got more spark than I gave her credit for," I told Gizmo, who was now batting at the frayed edge of my space blanket. Thought I was a lone wolf in this place, but her, Mum with her endless care packages, even Ravi from the mess hall with his chai recommendations. They're my orbit, aren't they? Weird little collection of people, but it works. I pulled out my comm unit, scrolling through the messages I'd been ignoring. 6 from dispatch, 3 from Supervisor Catry, 1 from admin requesting my latest expense reports. All work, all urgent. But nestled among them was a message from Mum, another from Leela asking about my plans for Diwali, and one from Ravi sharing a new chai recipe he thought I might like. I smiled, putting the comm unit away without responding to any of them. They'd all wait until morning. The crises, the paperwork, the family obligations, even the good stuff. Tonight was just for stars and silence. I poured myself another cup of chai, watching the steam curl in the cool air of the rooftop. The Boreas Nebula was starting to fade now, its vibrant colours softening as the orbital station's rotation took us to a different view. "The travellers shook me," I admitted, voice barely above a whisper. "Worst assignment yet. Felt like they were reaching into my head, rearranging the furniture without permission." I tapped my temple lightly. "And now there's this awareness. Patterns everywhere. Connections I never noticed before." I stared at the nebula's shifting colours. "That cloud formation there, see how it mirrors the station's power grid layout? And the way those maintenance drones are moving, perfectly counter to the orbital drift calculations." I caught myself, realised I was doing it again, finding patterns, making connections that probably weren't even there. Was this just my brain's way of processing trauma, or had the travellers actually changed something fundamental in my perception? But I'm still me, aren't I? Still Maya Holloway. Still got my chai habit and my robot cat, and my knack for surviving the unsurvivable. That's good enough, right? Gizmo's sensors blinked, slow and steady, which I chose to take as agreement. The drifty things were still dancing, their movements more languid now, like they were getting tired. I watched them fade in and out, wondering if they were a known species or something new, something I should report. But tonight wasn't about reporting or filing or regulations. Tonight was just about being. "You know what's funny?" I said, shifting to get more comfortable. Growing up, I rebelled against everything Mum wanted for me. Refused to be the perfect Indian daughter. Wouldn't go into medicine like Leela or business like Dad wanted. Always had to be difficult, find my own path. I chuckled, the sound echoing slightly in the empty space. And look where that got me. Cleaning up alien messes and filling out expense reports. Still fighting the system, just a different one. A shooting star streaked across the visible portion of space, and I made a wish, feeling childish but not caring. Some old habits die hard. Remember that time with the glimmer glob in Mrs. Fitzwilliam's flat? The one that stole her prosthetic eye? I asked Gizmo, who was now sprawled across my lap, his weight oddly comforting. Cedric, she called it, and the eye was Bartholomew. Mad, right? But she wasn't afraid, wasn't disgusted, just accepted it as part of her world. I sighed, tracing the constellations visible from our current position. Maybe that's what I need to do. Stop fighting everything so hard. Accept that my world includes exploding fungi and nanites that turn me blue and officious building AIs. Not normal by most standards, but it's my normal. The maintenance drone buzzed by again, but this time I let it pass. Let Barry log the violation. What was one more fine in the grand scheme of things? I keep thinking about what Mum would say if she knew what I really did for a living, I continued, scratching Gizmo behind his audio receptors. Not the sanitized version I tell her, but the actual truth. Would she be horrified? Impressed? Both? I could almost hear her voice. Beta, you are always running toward danger instead of away, just like your father. Not disapproving, just concerned. Always concerned. The drifty things had almost disappeared now, just faint pulses of light against the darkening view. I finished my chai, the thermos now cold. The travellers shook me, I repeated, needing to say it again to acknowledge it fully. But I'm still here, aren't I? Still got my chai, still got you, still got my knack for surviving. Good enough? Gizmo's sensors blinked, steady and sure, and I felt something settle in me. Not peace exactly, but acceptance. Whatever came next, whether it was more sentient slime or interdimensional beings or just Barry's endless regulations, I'd handle it. I always did. I packed up my things as the station's night cycle began to simulate, the lighting in the corridors outside dimming to a soft glow. Gizmo jumped up, stretching his mechanical limbs with surprising grace for a collection of circuits in metal. Time to head back before Barry sends out a search party, I said, gently folding my space blanket. Maybe tomorrow I'll actually do that blasted air quality assessment. As I approached the hatch, I paused, looking back at the dome, at the last glimpse of stars before we'd rotate away from them completely. Thanks for listening, I said softly to the empty space, to the drifty things, to the nebula, to whoever or whatever might be out there in the vast, strange universe. Same time next crisis? Back in my flat, a care package waited. Mum's distinctive handwriting on the label. Beta, eat properly, rest more, love you always. I smiled, tucking it away for morning. Trying, Mum, I whispered. Trying. I glanced around the small space that had been my home for almost 2 years now. The place was still a mess, but somehow it didn't seem as chaotic as before. Or maybe I just wasn't looking at it the same way. The half-unpacked equipment told stories of challenges overcome, The forgotten mugs of tea marked moments of respite between crises. Gizmo's scattered parts weren't clutter, but evidence of his ongoing evolution. My eyes fell on the hidden compartment beneath my desk, where I kept the Muon Tech sensor. I felt the now familiar urge to pull it out, to scan the room, to check for anomalies that weren't there. My fingers itched to calibrate it, to tinker with its settings, to lose myself in its readings. Instead, I took a deep breath and turned away. The compulsion could wait until morning. One night without chasing patterns wouldn't hurt. I picked up the framed photo on my bedside table, the only personal item I'd bothered to properly display. Me with Leela and Priya at Diwali 3 years ago, all of us in our finest, Mum and Dad beaming proudly in the background. We looked like a normal family. We were, I supposed, despite everything. I touched the face of each family member gently. Dad, who taught me to take apart engines when I was 7. Mum, whose food parcels always included a handwritten note reminding me to call more often. Priya, whose modelling career had taken her to places I'd never see. Leela, whose medical brilliance made Mum sigh with pride. And me, the middle child, the rebel, the one who cleaned up after alien messes and fought bureaucracy and occasionally saved the world without anyone knowing. The one who now saw patterns where others saw chaos. Not so bad when you looked at it that way. I pulled out my datapad and did something I hadn't done in months. I wrote in my journal. Not the official mission logs or incident reports, but my personal thoughts. About the drifty things. About Mrs. Higgins and her unexpected gaming prowess. About the resonance from Sigma 6 that was becoming less intrusive as I acknowledged it rather than fought it. About how maybe, just maybe, I was exactly where I needed to be. Doing exactly what I was meant to do. When I finished writing, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. The weight hadn't disappeared, but it had shifted, become more bearable. Gizmo zapped my ankle gently, demanding attention or perhaps his nightly charge. "You little terror," I said fondly, scooping him up. The hum from Sigma 6 was still there in the back of my mind, faint but persistent. But it didn't frighten me now. It was just another souvenir from another weird day on the job. Another pattern to understand. I glanced at my comm unit one last time before setting it to silent mode. Dispatch could wait until morning. The universe had survived billions of years before I came along. It could handle a single night without Xeno-containment specialist Maya Holloway on call. Whatever came next, sludge, spiders, or more cosmic weirdos, I'd handle it. One anomaly at a time, one day at a time, one pattern at a time. But tonight, just for tonight, I'd rest in the quiet. I'd earned it. So, tell me, how was your day? Hopefully less chaotic than mine, but just as interesting, eh?